In the world of high finance, among the glass towers of London and New York, names are made and fortunes are won. We see the results, the headlines, the staggering sums of money, but we rarely see the journey. We rarely hear the story of the struggle that forged the success. This is one of those stories. This is the story of Steve Koltes. Imagine for a moment the peak of your career. You are at the top of your game, a senior executive at one of the world's most powerful banks, Citibank, in the heart of London. You and your team have built something extraordinary, a venture capital arm that prints money, that has a stellar track record. You have vision, momentum, and ambition. This was Steve Koltes in the early 1990s. But then, imagine the ground beginning to shift beneath your feet. The parent company, a giant ocean liner miles away in New York, hits an iceberg. It faces its own financial storms. And in recalibrating, it looks at your thriving entrepreneurial division and sees not a jewel in its crown, but a risk, an anomaly, an asset that doesn't fit the new cautious strategy. Directives come down from on high. The reins are pulled tight. Bureaucracy begins to smother innovation. Spreadsheets and risk models from a distant head office begin to matter more than the instincts and expertise of the team on the ground. This was the problem Koltes faced. It wasn't a failure of performance. It was a crisis of purpose, a suffocation of spirit. The very culture of success he had helped build was being systematically dismantled, not out of malice, but out of corporate necessity. He and his partners, Raleigh Van Rappaport and Donald McKenzie, made their case. They fought for their team, for their vision, and they were met with a closed door. This is the crucible. This is the moment that defines a person. Do you accept the new diminished reality? Do you trade your ambition for the comfort of a large salary and a familiar desk? Or do you listen to the voice that says, there is another way? For Koltes, the choice was an act of faith. Faith in his partners, faith in the team they had assembled, and most importantly, faith in themselves. They did not simply resign. They conceived a plan so audacious, it was brilliant. They would not leave empty-handed. They would negotiate to buy the business they had built from their own employers. They would perform a management buyout. Think of the courage that required. The hard work of those years became their currency. Their track record was their only collateral. They sat across the table from one of the most powerful institutions in the world and negotiated for their own freedom, for the right to their own future. And in 1993, they succeeded. But this was not the end of the struggle. It was the beginning of a far greater one. They had the name, CVC, they had a single fund, but they had no safety net, no giant bank to catch them if they fell. They were alone. The next years were a grind of pure dedication. It was a test of will. Koltes and his partners became road warriors, circling the globe, sitting in countless conference rooms, pitching their dream to skeptical investors. They had to prove that this new independent CVC was not a cast-off, but a phoenix. And through relentless effort, they built something new from the ashes of the old. They built a culture, not of corporate compliance, but of shared ownership and entrepreneurial fire. They granted equity, they shared the risk and the reward. They instilled a discipline of digging deeper, of looking beyond quarterly reports to long-term sustainable value. They faced the dot-com bust and the 2008 global financial crisis not as victims, but as vigilant captains, steering their ship through the storm with a steady hand, their strategy, their compass. And what was the result of this journey through the wilderness? Of betting on themselves when no one else would? That small team, born from a moment of rejection, grew into CVC Capital Partners, a colossus striding the globe, managing over 188 billion euros. They became architects of industry, advisors to governments, and a symbol of European financial prowess. Steve Koltes, the man who was once told his vision didn't fit the corporate plan, became the co-chairman of his own empire. A billionaire, a legend in the private equity world. His story is not just about finance. It is a lesson for anyone who has ever felt trapped, undervalued, or stifled by circumstances beyond their control. It teaches us that the end of one road is often the hidden starting point of one far greater one. That rejection is not a verdict, it is redirection. That the most powerful asset you will ever have is not a title or a position, but the unwavering belief in your own ability forged in the fire of hard work and dedicated partnership. Steve Koltes' legacy is a testament to the most powerful truth of all, that the greatest fortune you will ever build is the fortune of your own character.